I wanted to make this video about what will happen in the case of a mistrial in the state of New York. And this one is concerning the P. Diddy trial. Well, I think I covered this in one of my videos just where I was just talking in general, but it was never highlighted. So I thought, well, you know what? Go ahead and do a video to highlight what will actually happen if we actually have a mistrial. What actually sparked this video was a discussion that I was having with a couple of viewers from our girl Tisa Tells video. And on her video, she keeps saying how if they get it, worst case scenario, if he get a mistrial, then he'll just sit in jail until they retry him. When in fact, that's not actually the truth. That's not true. Right. So of course, I made a comment and said that's not really true. They will have to rearrest him, charge him again because, it'll be over, right? Really. And technically, he would have won the case on a not necessarily won, because on a mistrial, you're not really winning or losing. It didn't say he was innocent or guilty. It's basically saying that by default, the case is closed. It's over. So if the case is closed and it's over, then the defendant has to be released. They cannot hold him for charges that they couldn't prove. They will have to let him go. Now, of course, I got kickback when I said this on her thing. I mean, regardless of how we feel about a situation, the law is the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse for the law. And how you feel about the law is not going to change the law. The law is the law. And whether or not you think that's right or not, it is just the law, right? And I love Tisha, so don't think I'm saying this just to come at her. No, I'm not. I just think she's misinformed. I think, I've said this before, I think a lot of her videos, because she is persuaded one way over the other, she just feels how she feels. And that's perfectly fine. Me, myself, I think he's guilty. I do. And I pray to God that they get this right and no mistrial happens. Everything goes through. He goes to jail, and he goes to jail for a long time. But on the flip side, I can't not look at the law and what the law says. So you still have to look at the law and stand on what the law says. The law isn't based off of feelings. It's not based off of whatever. It's based off of the fairness and supposed to be the equality of all, right? It's supposed to be a middle ground. So that way, when something happens, good or bad, you have the law there, so that way you can make sure that your rights are protected and that you sort of get justice. So regardless of how we feel about whether or not he should sit there if there's a mistrial, do I feel he should sit there if there's a mistrial? Absolutely. I think they should keep him in jail until they can figure out what they're going to do. But when it comes to a mistrial, there's just so many different variables that could happen. And so when you look at a mistrial, you literally have to look at it from case by case by case in order to see what the end goal is going to be. And when you're talking about a federal mistrial, there's so much stuff that goes into actually getting it to a trial to begin with that a retrial, I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm just saying it's slim to none of ever happening. So technically, he would win on a default technicality if they get a mistrial. This is why they are pushing for it so hard. That's why everything is a mistrial. In fact, I made a short. If you're in denial, file for a mistrial, because they're pushing hard for it because they want to get it kicked out. They want the case, they want it to be where either they made a jurisdictional error or they found something that gave them grounds to file for a mistrial, whether or not it was someone who took an immunity and lied under oath, mistrial, anything. They're trying their darndest for the client. And my personal opinion is they're trying this because they really don't have a leg to stand on because the case have already been proven. And so the only thing they got to work in their favor is a mistrial, or try one of those tactics that I say, well, we were incompetent and not able to fully handle the case the way he should have had this case handled. But I don't see how they're going to be able to claim that, because really the people that are defending him, the lawyers that are defending him, are great lawyers. When we're talking about dream team of lawyers in 2025, that's the team you want to have on your side when you are facing life in prison. They are the ones you want. The only one they're missing on there is that guy turned I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Taco Pino. They're missing him. Other than that, baby, that would have been hands down case of the century. You hear me? Because it is what it is. There's some great attorneys, and I'm not even knocking what they do. Brian Steele, he's an awesome attorney. The rest of the attorneys that are attached to that P. Diddy trial, he is paying, he getting his money worth out of the ones he's doing. But the fact is, if there is a mistrial that happens, it's not as cut and dry as people think. He's not going to be made to stay in jail until they retry him. Could he? Yeah, he can, but not on this particular charges that they got him on. They have to rearrest him for something else, or either a stronger reasonable doubt to pull him back in, because the one that they had was cast out in a mistrial. So they're going to have to get a judge to sign for a new warrant for his arrest and then rearrest him. Now, I would think if it was going to they were going to be successful on getting a mistrial, and that the state thought that they were going to get a mistrial, then they would take the necessary steps to get what is known as an emergency warrant for his rearrest. So basically what would happen is the moment he stepped his behind out in the jail cell, he would be rearrested on more charges, and then they would formulate it from there. But just like the state will probably look into what they need to do, I'm sure his attorney already have that in the forefront. That's the reason why they pushing so hard for it. So they already know, if this was my client, this is what I would be doing. If this person was able to get a mistrial, I need to go ahead and take necessary steps. So they're going to take necessary steps that they need to make sure and ensure that that doesn't happen to their client. On top of the fact, y'all, you got to get other witnesses. The witnesses that already testified will have to come back and retell the story. So all immunity deals will be off the table. So now everybody's going to be facing possibly going to jail, on top of what he's facing going to jail. You're talking about taxpayers' money that's going to be dumped into trying to retry this case. It's just so much that's why I say 9 out of 10 is probably not going to happen. So he would win a technical win, because they're not going to put the effort into pulling him back in after they already got a mistrial. Of course, unless they can find other ways. And that's why I made a video and I said, do y'all really think this is coincidental that all these celebrities are now starting to be charged with some similar crimes as he is? And maybe that's why they wasn't calling celebrities, and that's why they wasn't focused on it, because they know there's other celebrities that they're working on that they're going to bring in, that regardless, either way, is going to catch him right back up into it. So it's like their safety blanket in the event it doesn't work out in the way they are hoping it to with these RICO charges. I think they still got him, but it's going to be got on a different way. So you have to look at everything when it comes to this trial. But as far as P. Diddy, if he get let out on a mistrial in the state of New York, right? I went ahead and I pulled it up. So it's not just me talking. I'm not an actual lawyer. So a lot of people probably think, well, when I say stuff, I don't know what I'm talking about when I be saying it. But I studied law, and criminal justice was one of the things I loved about the law, right? Before I kind of dabbled and really focused most of my study into family law. However, I do follow lawyers. I do watch a lot of panels of lawyers discussing this particular case. So this has been discussed on different panels, on different such as what I've done, and with real attorneys who have handled high profile cases such as these. But when I went to go look to see whether or not they said, well, what would happen if you get a mistrial? Was that using the title? I didn't see it. So I was like, well, yay, that kind of strikes up a good thing to talk about, a good topic to discuss and really bring to the forefront of a mistrial. Okay, so let's look at the state of New York and what the state of New York says. Well, a mistrial in a federal case in New York means that the trial has ended. It's over, right? Without a verdict due to issues such as a jury deadlock or procedural errors. The following outlines the implication and next steps. Immediate consequences. Retrial possibilities. The government may choose to retry the case depending on the circumstances of the mistrial. Dismissal. In some cases, the prosecution may decide not to pursue the case further, leading to a mistrial. Legal progress. Jurisdiction review. The judge may review the reason for the mistrial and determine the next step. The new jury selection. If retrial is pursued, a new jury will be selected for the case. And that's if they even hear it in New York. 9 out of 10, they probably will. If I was his defense attorney, I would now challenge jurisdiction to get it thrown out of New York and make it even harder for you to now try my client. You are going to have to either try him in Florida or you're going to have to try him in Los Angeles, which all costs more money, all right? So you have to look at this stuff too. Legal process. Jurisdiction review. The judge may review the case, may review the reasons for the mistrial, and determine the next step. That's where the new jury selection come in. If retrial is pursued, a new trial will be selected for the case. A defendant right, double jeopardy, right? A mistrial does not invoke double jeopardy protections, meaning the defendant can be retried. Basically, that's the whole catch with a mistrial. You can't necessarily hold them in jail, but if you want to retry them on different charges or in addition to the charges that you already, and you want to try it again, you can, and you will not be in the risk of doing what is called double jeopardy. Basically meaning you cannot charge a person for the same crime twice once they're found innocent, right? A mistrial does not give you a verdict one way or the other. It just means something happened and y'all had to stop the trial, right? Okay, let's go on. So, legal representation. The defendant should consult with his attorney to understand their rights and options following a mistrial. During that legal representation, it's going to be known with the client and the attorney that they can't really technically hold you here. They got to try to do something else. So I'm going to get to work to make sure that they don't get that emergency rearrest. They don't do what they need to do to hold you out of here, in here, and we're going to get you out. You got to look at this. This man has been, now I'm not saying he's innocent, so don't take this statement for that, but you got to look at it. This man has been in jail ever since last year, and he's been sitting in jail awaiting a trial that they couldn't even prove whether or not he was innocent or guilty. In fact, they had a mistrial, right? So you have to look at time served on any situation. Even if he was to get a verdict, even if he was to say be found guilty and he's going to get such and such amount of time, they have to give you credit for being in jail for the time that you was in there. So for a mistrial that you couldn't even first prove stuff on and got off on a technicality, you can't legally hold somebody there. You cannot. You have to let them go because they have already served their time. And they served their time without you even proving guilt or innocent. That don't mean they can't be rearrested, okay? Once you let out and rearrested, now we start the whole process all back over. So that's the part I think people are overlooking. You're overlooking the rearrest part and just making him stay. No, that does not work like that. It doesn't mean he's going to stay in jail. And in fact, it could mean he's going to get out. Right? Potential outcomes, negotiation. The parties may engage in a plea negotiation after a mistrial. Appeal. If a mistrial was due to jurisdictional errors, there may be ground for appeals in certain situations. Contextual factors such as severity of charges. The nature of the charges are influencing the decision to retry or dismiss the case. And while that is going on, that's where look, Your Honor, as his attorney, I would say, look, Your Honor, my client has served a year up in jail, away from his family, his kids. He done missed his children's graduation. Yes, and the prosecution, the state has not found my client guilty of absolutely anything. It will be unjust to have him sitting inside this jail until they can come up with some other charges. Your Honor, please release I'm pleading with the court to release my client immediately, because they don't even have anything they can technically hold him for. All right? So this is where the argument is going to come in. Okay, so the judge will have to make a decision of whether or not they're going to let him go. And 9 out of 10, because he has served at least all this time in jail, almost a year, y'all. If not, I think it has been over a year in jail. They have to give him consideration that he has been in jail for that long. Public interest. A high-profile case may see more pressure for a retrial from the public or the media, right? It's court of public opinion that might say he needs to be retried, but the courts and the federal government may say, we're not going to do it. All right. Each case is unique, and the outcome may vary based on specific circumstances and legal strategies employed. Now, let me ask the question. In a federal criminal case, will the defendant be released from jail if there is a mistrial in New York? I'm waiting for the answer. Of course, they're doing a chat GPT for this. Okay, so here's what ChatGPT say. A mistrial in a federal criminal case does not automatically result in a defendant's release from jail. The factors influence release, the nature of the charges. The seriousness of the charges can impact whether the defendant remains in custody. This is that emergency warrant that we're talking about. Bail status. If a defendant was previously granted bail, right, they may be released pending a retrial. If not, they might remain in custody. It does not mean that they're automatically going to be kept in jail. It doesn't mean that. It's all up to the judge's discretion, but it's also going to be looking at the circumstances surrounding. He has been in jail for over a year. A trial has been mistrialed. And if his attorney can plead his case well enough, it's a possibility he will get released. As well as, if the state really want to retry it and they really want to get him, can be rearrested right outside of the jailhouse. That's the beauty of this all. Okay? It's not a definite, he's going to sit there. That's just not how it works. It's not definite. Okay? It's not definite one way or the other. Okay, judge decision. The judge has discretion to decide whether to release the defendant based on the circumstances surrounding the mistrial. A mistrial outcome. A mistrial occurs when a trial cannot proceed to a verdict, often due to procedural issues or jury deadlock. Right now, they're trying to get it on procedural. issues, not the well. They're kind of doing it on both a little bit because they're trying to eliminate so many jurors. Because here's the thing: in a federal criminal crime, with criminal charges, you have to have, when you go to trial, 12 juries deliberating on the case. If it falls up under 12, it's already kicked out. It's not gonna happen. So that's what they slick behind trying to do on the slide when it's getting rid of all these jurors. Okay, so keep that in the back of y'all head. The prosecution may choose to retry the case, which can influence the defendant's custody status. Legal representation. If it is advisable for the defendant to consult with his attorney to understand the specific situation and follow options following a mistrial. Once again, it is not definite he will be held in custody. It's not. Just like it's not definite that he will not be released, because it's up to the judge's discretion. However, most federal cases, when it comes down to a mistrial, because of all the things that has come in play, far as funding, paying for the trial, getting witnesses to come back and testify, and all the immunity deals that they done gave out, most of the time, the retrials on a federal criminal case that resulted in a mistrial does not happen. And that's just what it is, y'all. So hopefully this will clear up any misunderstanding when it comes to a mistrial. And remember, when we're doing this and giving our opinions, we have to just say it's our opinion versus it's fact. So that way the court of public opinion really knows what's actually happening and what's really going on, y'all. As always, be your brothers and sisters keeper. Keep God first. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel so you can stay informed and in contact with me with more helpful information from this channel. Toodles.